Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about Tropical Storm Fred having impacts to the Caribbean and then to the United States coming up this weekend. So if you do like weather related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. This is your afternoon tropical update. What we're looking at here, we've got that Invest 94L has now been upgraded to a potential tropical cyclone, and it is expected to become a tropical storm, which will be named Fred later on this evening. But right now, it's got some 35-mile-per-hour winds to it. It's moving west-northwest at 15 miles an hour. You can definitely see it's out by the Lesser Antilles, and they've got tropical storm watches out currently for Puerto Rico as well as the Dominican Republic. They're expecting anywhere from 1 to 3 inches coming up for the Windward Islands, and then for the Dominican Republic as much as 3 to 6 inches, as this is really trying to get its act together. It will be moving along west-northwest through time, but you can kind of see the timestamp here. It takes it over Puerto Rico by Wednesday time frame, over the Dominican Republic Wednesday afternoon. Gets in and around the Turks and Caicos area sometime on Thursday. Then going to be impacting parts of Cuba. And then this puts it more or less into the western Gulf of Mexico, making impacts on into Florida by the time we get into this weekend. So this is kind of a similar location where Tropical Storm Elsa was just last month, back in early part of July. So let's walk you through the details here and take a look at the overall satellite picture. This is the area that we're concerned about, way down here in the Lesser Antilles. This was what will be Tropical Storm Fred, and then we also have a pretty formidable tropical wave that's going to be a main player later on down the line. But there's our interest as of right now. We've got some instability out ahead of it into Jamaica and to the Dominican Republic with some scattered heavier thunderstorms. But this will continue moving across west-northwest in time. And let's take a look at some of the ensemble members' guidance. You saw the track from the National Hurricane Center, and this is why they have it, because pretty much all the ensemble members more or less take it from the European model directly towards Florida. I mean, it's pretty much all 51 members are almost solidly aligned here of saying, hey, this system's going to be in and around near Florida by the time we get into that Saturday time frame. The GFS has a little bit more westerly trajectory, but yeah, all these members essentially take it up west and northwest in time, and eventually going to be in and around near the Florida area by the time we get into Saturday morning. Now let's take a look at all the models, and this is kind of a summary of all the model guidance, and this kind of has the same thing. It basically puts it in around Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and around Cuba. There's a lot of land interaction here, so it's got a hard road to climb. What I shall show you here in a little bit, just the topography it's going over, to get even stronger than a tropical storm. We'll also have some dust, some Sahara dust on its trail as well, kind of ingesting some dry air to the system at times as well. So it's got some factors to be kind of limiting factors of it kind of blowing up into a major hurricane or something. But this will continue moving across. But once it gets out in the Gulf of Mexico, yeah, I mean, there are definitely signs out in the open water. I think the dust does settle down by then. So yeah, it's not out of the question. It could start to come to life, so to speak, as we get into the weekend. But that is a long ways away. We still got plenty of time to track it. And let's take a look at some of the guidance, some of the intensity guidance. You can definitely see with that combination of the topography and the ingestion of the Saharan dust, most of the guidance has it keeping at tropical storm force wind conditions predominantly over the next 5, 6 to 7 days. So the uncertainty is what it would do once it gets out into the open waters, or once it gets in and around that area. Like I mentioned, it just got named a potential tropical system. It will be named a storm tonight, so they're just now getting their bearings in the low level center and where this is going. So it's got plenty of time to track over the next 5 to 6 days. But we are in what they call MJO phase 2. That is your most enhanced phase of the cycle, and that is your most bullish phase of the tropical systems out there. And we're going to be there and depicted in the green color for really the next 2 weeks. So I do feel it's going to be starting to get to be an active time. So we definitely got to keep an eye out into the Caribbean and the tropics, because things can move pretty quick in this type of environment. So let's take a look at the precipitable water imagery and where this storm could be by the time we get into Wednesday. There's your heavier rain and your circulation right over Puerto Rico, impacting with some high winds and some very heavy rain on the island. And as we continue moving across, this puts it on Thursday and around the Turks and Caicos area. They'll wake up to cloudy skies, rainy conditions, windy conditions. It's just a nasty day probably coming up for in and around the Turks and Caicos area, but that'll be impacting going towards Bermuda as well. And you can see Jamaica is going to be just to the south of this system, so probably not terribly too much impacts from this particular system, as well as the Cayman Islands. So this will be north of you and away from the more or less dirty side of the system. But as we get into that Saturday time frame, yeah, that's the concern, is it'll get close to the United States, probably making impacts by then in and around the Florida area. So this is the precipitable water. Remember, typically tropical system, the right side is the dirty side on the east side, and that's where a lot of the heavier rain could be. So even though the circulation may be around here at that time frame, it'll be pumping a lot of that wind and heavy rain into Florida. And this is pretty much all of Florida too. So if it takes the track that I think it's going to take, it'll spread heavier rain for a good chunk of Florida as this comes up the coast into the weekend. But beyond that, we're going to have to be more concerned about this tropical wave that is just now off of Africa. And it's going to be taking a while by the time it gets to this area. By the time we get into that, August 16th time frame, we'll be watching this tropical wave. But here's what could be Fred by then, if not a hurricane potentially, is not out of the question. You can definitely see by Monday. So this is a long ways away. That's a week away. It could potentially be right here into the Florida Panhandle after it comes off the West Coast. But yeah, beyond that, we got to have to take a look at this tropical wave that comes off the coast of Africa. By the time the 19th rolls around, it looks like this tropical wave will take a more southern route and a more western route. It won't be ingested by that Saharan dust, and so that won't be a limiting factor from this system. Most of the guidance has it keeping westbound and probably going to be in and around the Caribbean by the 19th time frame. And there's a lot of heavy rain showing up in the Caribbean, and so a lot of the guidance has this potentially going into the Gulf of Mexico by then. Of course, this is a long ways off, but that's definitely something to be concerned about after Fred takes over. Then we have we also have the dust. I mean, here's the dust that's going to be trailing behind this system. Like I mentioned, it is going to be an inhibiting factor. This is the dust on Saturday morning. So it's going to be tailing this system the entire time as it's back here the entire time. And some of this dust is going to be ingested from this system. And I think that's what's going to keep it at bay. But by the time we get into, the Gulf of Mexico, probably by, this coming weekend, Sunday time frame, this dust is going to subside. And then that's when I think it might be opening the door or potential strengthening to a hurricane. So we'll just have to see how all this plays out. We got plenty of time to track this system. But let's take a look at the wind guidance. This is your wind field. This is just your initial wind field of where the higher winds may be, right along that center, just right along Puerto Rico, getting north of the Dominican Republic, going to the Turks and Caicos, in and around South Florida, Central Florida. And yeah, the European model, the latest update, has indications that it could possibly re-strengthen out after, as it gets into the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico. So some of these, that's why it's indicating some higher wind gusts of upward over hurricane force conditions. So yeah, it's not out of the question just because it's tropical storm the entire time that it can't bump up into a hurricane by the time we get into that Sunday time frame off the the Florida coast here. So that's definitely going to be up to something we have to look out for as we go throughout the week. There's your rain prospects for the next 10 days. There's that first system with Fred dumping some heavier rain along the way into Florida. These are multi-inch rains, and this will probably just be added to these totals after new model guidance, starts coming together and as it starts getting closer. But this will more or less take a turn up the southeast coast, going to be impacting Georgia into the Carolinas, and this will traverse up the coastline as we go into early the following week. And then, yes, then that's when we have to pay attention to that system that's coming off of Africa, which will probably be named Invest 95L by then. And that's going to take a more southern route and probably going to be impacting more of the southern parts of the Leeward Islands, more of Jamaica, more of the Cayman Islands, as this gets into possibly the Yucatan as well, Cancun, places like that. And as this would probably enter the Gulf of Mexico, but that's probably about 12 days away. So that's still a long time to track this system, as it literally is just coming off the coast of Africa right now as just a tropical wave. So, and that's one of the indications why the Climate Prediction Center has, when they updated their 3 to 4 week outlook during that August 21st to September 3rd timeframe, they know we're going to be still in a favorable MJO phase of phase 2 and phase 3 by then. And that's indication of some cooler air indicating over Texas and the southeast, as well as above average rainfall. So that's kind of implying that we're going to have a lot of instability in and around the Gulf of Mexico, to be concerned about once we go into that, August 21st and beyond time frame. So that's definitely something to look for later on down the line. And some of the ensemble member guidance, if you take a look, over the next 15 days of the latest GFS, there's a lot of spaghetti models here going on, but these are just possible tracks of this potential wave. And some of these have upward guidance of hurricane, if not almost major hurricane, putting it into the Gulf of Mexico. So there's definitely ensemble members already kind of showing that this could be a formidable storm. So that's definitely something to be concerned about. But we got plenty of time to track this system after what Fred does. After this up, but I do expect a fairly, active time frame over the next couple of weeks in the Atlantic Basin. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video and definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.